reconstructed view of every organ, bone, and soft tissue. CT uses pencil point X-ray beams from a rotating donut surrounding the patient's body. Detectors pick up the signals, which vary in strength after they pass through human tissue. The detectors then send this information to a computer, which creates a picture of a single slice of the human body. A picture that looks something like a pizza. When the US Navy was using sonar to hunt for submarines in World War II, nobody guessed that someday this same technology would be used by radiologists as a diagnostic and therapeutic medical tool. Well, actually, I guessed but forgot to write it down, and now no one believes me. Ultrasound uses the same principle as sonar, bouncing sound waves off objects in the body. The sound waves bounce back from boundaries between different tissues, like water and fat, or fat and muscle. Marie and Pierre Curie, along with Henri Becquerel, won the Nobel Prize in 1903 for their investigations into radioactivity and specifically radium. Their discoveries soon led doctors to use radiation to kill bad cells, like cancer. Today's radiation oncologists have refined radiation therapy, getting more radiation to the cancer and much less to the rest of the body. The result is a significantly improved quality of life during treatment.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Phil. I want to welcome you to Medicine's New Vision presented by the radiological community. Let's think today of radiologists as explorers of the human body, its structure, its function, and what it's made of. Their tools of exploration are exciting imaging technologies that allow them to see things that were previously unseeable. Now, the pictures created from these new non-invasive technologies allow for two things. First, an improvement in diagnosis, and second, a precision in treatment that advanced medicine in the past century revolutionized it in this one. The first X-rays of about 100 years ago, the advanced technologies of, let's say, teleradiology and radiological oncology, X-rays given a whole new meaning to the term picture of health. Let's take a look. And this is wherever you are in the world, by the way.
What do radiology, animation, and Leonardo da Vinci have in common? One way or another, all have contributed to a new technology that lets radiologists study three-dimensional models of the human body. Leonardo's drawings are extraordinary, but unfortunately, he had to disassemble his models in order to make these studies of human anatomy. Radiologists helped us to see further into the body by developing CT scan machines, a critical element in medical virtual reality imaging. And what about this guy? No, he's not a radiologist, but radiologists recognize that the same technology used to generate special effects and animation for the movies can be used to process data taken from CT scans to create a virtual human body. A CT scanner creates thin slice images of the human body. Radiologists use computers to combine many CT scan images into a 3D image. It's called virtual reality imaging. And it's used to create detailed pictures of you, portraits, you might say, from the inside out. And just like family portraits, this technology lets us see subtle changes that occur over time, changes that are good and some not so good. But it gets even more exciting when we link high-powered computers to our CT scan information, allowing us to literally fly through the body. Using images like these, radiologists can see the body in 3D from the inside, opening up whole new opportunities for diagnosis and treatment. 25 years ago, no one would have thought this possible. 25 years from now, anything may be possible.
Well, the benefits from seeing inside the body are pretty obvious, but what these and other images allow doctors to do is use minimally invasive treatments. In other words, CT scans and MRI images actually help doctors and guide doctors as they maneuver through the body to actually locate the problem areas and go ahead and treat it. Sometimes, often eliminating the need for additional surgery. I'll show you what I mean.
Today's mission requires a level head, steady hands, and the latest, most sophisticated technology. We've discovered a problem that needs immediate attention, a potential killer. Take a look at these pictures. The target was located by using MRI technology in conjunction with an X-ray contrast agent, which was injected into his environment. It's a good thing we caught it when we did. An intracranial aneurysm, a weakening in the arterial wall. It's a time bomb. Our operatives are equipped with new weapons that the enemy hasn't been up against before. This is a platinum coil. It's small, it's flexible, and it can infiltrate his position. He won't even see it coming. Multiple coils can be dispatched inside the target. The area is secured, and the damage is isolated. They call it platinum coil embolization. I call it effective. This is an interventional radiology operation. No scalpels, no stitches. In and out without a trace. It's as easy as finding a trench coat at the spy convention. Easy, that is, if you have the right team. For this mission, we need specialists, radiologists. Now, let's meet our team. Our interventional radiologist is Dr. James. Neuroradiologist, Dr. Weiss. Anesthesiologist, Dr. Hunter. Registered nurse, Louise Lowy. Radiology technologists, Angela Jones and Bill Hartnett. Team, let's get to work. The target enemy is just up ahead. See there? A weakness in the arterial wall. Left untreated, we're talking early retirement, minus the gold watch. This is it. The microcatheter is in position. Easy. Fast. The perimeter is defined. The coils are lined up. Send in the first coil. Push it up against the wall. Perfect. Here comes another. There's still a lot of space to fill. Looks like we've got it. The wall is reinforced. Blood is flowing smoothly. Our patient is good as new. Great work by a great team. That's all there is to it. The bad guy is history. The team is in and out. The only indication of our presence is a bad day. They call it minimally invasive surgery. They call it mission accomplished.
The interventional radiological procedure you've just seen allows for treatment that would be very, very difficult or almost impossible with conventional surgery. One of the big advantages, of course, is if this does affect a cure, there is no reason for additional conventional surgery. This, of course, lowers cost. Patient safety is our number one factor. Of course, there's very, very little danger when compared to a rather large surgical scar anywhere on the body. So we're very, very proud of some of the innovations that have come across in radiology over the past millennium, and we're looking forward to more advances as we move into this new millennium. I want to thank you so much for visiting with us today. Outside the theater, we have a game called The Inner Journey, which kind of gives you a hands-on experience of what you just saw in here today. And don't forget to see Illuminations tonight at 9 o'clock. Thanks again for coming, folks. If you have any quick questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
One day, long ago, a man noticed that his aches and pains went away after chewing on the bark of a willow tree. Word spread that the tree bark was a magical cure for sickness. Then, about 100 years ago, scientists found a way to produce something very similar to what was in the tree that relieved aches and pains. They called it aspirin. As you know, aspirin works well to relieve pain and stiffness, but it can also cause stomach problems like ulcers, especially if you have the pain of arthritis and have to take a lot of it. About 10 years ago, some curious scientists were fascinated by this problem, so they took a closer look. What if they could separate whatever was relieving the pain of arthritis from whatever was causing the ulcers? Well, it turned out they could. And thanks to their persistence, a new medicine was discovered to help people get relief from the pain and stiffness of arthritis while reducing the chance of stomach problems. Just goes to show, what starts as curiosity about something small can end up being the answer to something big. Years after a pair of American researchers discovered vitamin A Swiss chemist discovered how important it is to our health. Without it, our vision would be poor, our bodies wouldn't be able to absorb nutrients from food, and our immune systems would grow weak. In developed countries, vitamin A is naturally found in the foods people like to eat, foods like fruits and vegetables. It's even added to their milk. But in many developing countries, vitamin A deficiency is a problem. It can lead to disease and children even die from it. More than 600 million people in Asia, Africa, and Latin America suffer from a lack of vitamin A because it's not available in the foods they like to eat, like rice, beans, and lentils. By looking closer in nature, it's possible to enhance these plants so they produce vitamin A on their own. This way, the people who need it most can get it easily. And better yet, they can get it from the foods they naturally eat, instead of from a pill, a bottle, or a shot. It's interesting how the answers to some of the world's growing needs seem to be found in growing plants. The Spanish conquistadors came to the Americas in the 1500s looking for gold. Instead, they found potatoes. You can bet they were disappointed. But 300 years later, the potato would help save the world from starvation. And it's still a staple food all around the globe today. But some beetles love potatoes as much as people do, which creates a problem. It takes millions of tons of chemicals, raw materials, and crude oil to make, package, and distribute insecticides in the U.S. alone. So when it's finally sprayed on crops, you'd expect the insecticide to work. But guess what? The wind can blow it away, or rain can wash it off. And in a field of leafy plants, sometimes the spray never reaches a beetle near the ground. There must be a better way to deal with harmful insects. By looking closer at the natural biology of the potato, scientists have found a way to develop the traits the potato needs to defend itself against insects. Farmers will need less insecticide, and there will be less waste of our natural resources. That's one way we can protect the real gold of our earth. All these stories you have heard are about discoveries made possible by understanding the natural biology of plants and the genetic information in them that can be used to develop beneficial traits. There's a lot more that can be learned about the future of our food and health by continuing to take a closer look at nature. Some people believe this understanding will revolutionize the 21st century, the way physics and computers revolutionized the 20th century. It's all happening in a new area of study called life sciences, where some exciting connections between food, nutrition, and health are being discovered. Monsanto is committed because Monsanto believes this new understanding can bring hope for the growing family that lives here.
drown me?
Thank you. I've been trying to fill my bathtub for the longest time.
Ah, that was great. But next time, could you maybe add a twist of lime?
share a dream together around the world, with a voice from every country, a face from every land. We'll celebrate the future hand in hand. We'll celebrate the future hand in hand.
The future is coming. We gotta catch it if we can. The magic's unfolding, and you can hold it in your hand. We can touch tomorrow today to make some memories that'll never fade away.
Put your hand on the future. Share a dream together around the world,
with a voice from every country and a face from every land.
we'll celebrate the future hand in hand. Join the celebration. It's an invitation. Feel the inspiration. A dream we all share. From the very start of it, you
Thank you.